5 Sinister Stalker stories revealed. Terrifying encounters with haunted exes you must not ignore. The chill of unseeing eyes followed Lisa as she stepped outside. In the sleepy suburb of Maplewood, where laughter usually filled the air like sweet perfume, a menacing silence wrapped around her like a noose. The whir of cicadas was suddenly stifled, pulsing dread in every beat of her heart. After years of a lonely fight, her ex, Mark, had returned. A fleeting smile bled to panic as shadows flickered around her yard. Just beyond the porch light's reach, was that a figure retreating into the darkness? Half-formed memories clawed at her thoughts, the calm before the storm. The warmth of laughter felt foreign now. She squeezed her eyes shut, hoping it was just the shadows playing tricks. But each inhalation came heavy with an uneasy scent, the sulphurous hint of something darker lurking beneath the surface of Maplewood's pristine veneer. Days went by, and confusion morphed into horror as pets vanished. Mr. Whiskers, the neighbor's beloved tabby, didn't he return from his evening stroll? Lisa's instincts started to tug with alarm, sharp and relentless. A crack sound startled her one evening. Bright lights illuminated the streets, revealing shattered windows in the still of night. Each crash reverberated through her like an alarm bell. She wasn't just living in a neighborhood anymore. It felt like a war zone. And Mark? He seemed to glow in the eerie aftermath, slipping into their lives like he'd never left. The local police were quick to dismiss her fears. "This is just a misunderstanding, ma'am. There's nothing to worry about," an officer said. It gnawed on her, a diaphanous veil draped over their minds. They couldn't see the connections unraveling before her eyes, the slow descent into madness. She felt as though she couldn't breathe, her world dissolving like grains of sand slipping through her fingers. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Echoes of children's laughter twisted into a chilling lullaby that clawed at her sanity. The whispers began, creeping into her mind day after day. A few neighbors noticed her trembling as she walked Mia home from school, but no one brave to ask if she was okay. One night, in darkened desperation, Lisa stumbled upon local lore, the spirit of betrayed lovers roaming the very streets that cradled her dreams. It was a shiver spark of revelation. She was caught in a tapestry of misbegotten plans, and Mark was wielding memory's brush with devilish intent. That night, the woods beckoned, shadows lunging toward her like talons. Lisa's heart pounded as she found a hidden shrine, twigs snapping underfoot Mark's twisted homage. Panic clawed at her throat as realization struck. Mark was not only back, he was twisting their lives into a grotesque mockery. A terrifying chase began, her neighborhood morphing into an unrecognizable landscape as she sprinted through darkness. Familiar houses transformed into lurking monsters. Her breath hitched, each footfall echoing in her ears. Relief washed through her for a mere moment as she neared home, a flicker of hope igniting. But that fleeting light attracted the very shadow that had been toying with her spirit. Lisa, a guttural whisper slithered out from the abyss, chilling her to her core. Mark wasn't just her past, he was a horror she never escaped. What did he truly want? Would she and Mia survive the chilling depths of his betrayal, or would they become another ghost lost in Maplewood's haunted lore? The air turned frigid the moment Lisa crossed the threshold into her home. A blanket of unease settled around her, tightening its grip like a vice. The shadows behind her seemed alive, crawling along the walls, whispering secrets she dared not understand. She shut the door, the click of the latch echoing louder than a gunshot in the oppressive silence. "Mia, honey, can you stay upstairs for a bit?" Lisa called, her voice trembling. The house was still, save for the distant thump of her daughter's footsteps as she obeyed. Lisa's heart raced. She knew what lurked in the darkness outside, and now she feared for Mia more than herself. Casting a glance out the window, she felt a nausea rise in her throat. Mark's silhouette darted between the trees, a phantom blending into the night. This was not merely a man. This was something primal and beastly, a manifestation of her worst nightmares. She did not want to think about the shrine, a haphazard collection of broken toys and twisted love letters, nor the truth that hung heavy like fog in her mind. Mark was hunting them. Frantic, she scoured the house for an escape plan. The front door was out of the question. She eyed the kitchen window, but that meant crossing the living room, which felt like a death sentence. Each creak of the floorboards echoed like a countdown. With palms slick against her sides, she reached for her phone. No signal. The dread swallowed her whole. "Mia," she hissed, panic straining her voice. No answer came. "Please, come back." Then she heard a soft giggle that sent shivers crawling up her spine, but not from Mia. The laughter danced through the cracks of normalcy, entwined with the winds that whispered sin. Pushing through her terror, she rushed toward the stairs, but, halting mid-step, she noticed something at the bottom of the staircase. A doll. A familiar doll. Mia's favorite. A grotesque grin mocked her from its porcelain face, dirted and cracked as if it had been buried. "Fuck," she gasped. Had he been in their home? In her sanctuary? Panic surged as thoughts spiraled, visions of shadows slipping through her walls, of eyes lurking behind curtains. Teeth clenched, she snatched the doll, her heart thudding like a distressed drum. "Mia," she cried again, voice breaking, eyes darting toward the hallway. She dashed toward her daughter's room, the urgency clawing at her throat, but a sound stopped her cold. The front door creaked open, sending a wash of moonlight slicing through the house. The silhouette stood there, dark and conflicted, but unmistakable. "Mark." "Lisa," he called, his voice a rasp of ice. She pushed against the door of Mia's room, her back pressing firmly against it. "Get away from us." A dreadful laughter filled the space, chilling her blood. He didn't even seem to care. He was just there, a monster in the flesh and spirit. "You can't hide forever. I've come to finish what we started." The embodiment of her terror prowled closer. There was something unsettling about the way he moved, as if he were not quite walking but instead gliding, each motion calculated, every word a spell designed to entrap her. Behind her, Mia's small voice broke through the numbing haze. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Desperation clawed at Lisa. "Stay in your room. Lock the door." But it was too late. The latch clicked, and Mark was smiling, a wicked grin that split his face. "You think a door can stop me, Lisa? You're part of me now." The thudding of her heart echoed in her ears as she faced him, trapped. And then, something shifted in the shadows, a flicker, a movement. A pair of eyes appeared just behind Mark, glinting with malicious intent. Her breath caught. Who or what was it? The walls of her safe haven began to close in, and Lisa knew there was only one path ahead. She had to confront the darkness. "Run, Mia." But as she plunged forward, the shadow dashed through the room, merging with Mark, unleashing a renewed terror that brought all her worst fears to reality. But just as she prepared to strike back at the horror that had brought her life to the brink, another voice, familiar and haunting, echoed through the air. "You weren't supposed to leave me," and with those words, it became clear. The nightmare was just beginning. Lisa's heart stopped, frozen in a moment that stretched like a taut string ready to snap. The voice, trembling and laced with sorrow, broke through the overwhelming dread, twisting her stomach into knots. It belonged to someone she thought she had lost forever. "Mia," she screamed, desperate to protect her daughter from whatever darkness had taken root in their lives. But Mia didn't emerge. Instead, the shadow swirled around Mark, merging with him in a way that felt all too intimate, like an embrace filled with malevolent intent. "Did you think you could just leave me? Did you think you could erase me? Stop it," Lisa shouted, stepping forward instinctively, fueled by rage and desperation. The doll she still clutched slipped from her fingers, thudding against the floor. It felt like an omen, the loss of something sacred. Mark's eyes flickered with something dark and strange, an otherworldly glint that sent a fresh chill racing down her spine. "You should have stayed with me, Lisa. You made me do this. You wanted to go back to your little world, but I exist here now. With us." "Us." Her voice trembled. "What are you talking about?" "That's right." He smiled, revealing teeth too sharp to be real. "I've brought back the ones you left behind. We're family now. Forever." The air thickened, and Lisa felt a twisting in her gut, as if the very shadows in the room were reaching for her, whispering prayers of despair in a language she couldn't comprehend. Mia's laughter echoed again, this time distant and echoic, reverberating through the walls like a taunt. Mark surged forward, a predator unleashed. It's time to join them. Time to fix what's been broken. Get away. She lashed out, adrenaline amplifying her fear. But as she did, the room seemed to fracture around her. The once familiar walls twisted and twisted, flooding her mind with images of past hunters and games, moments she wished she could forget, faces of friends, family, all splayed in suffering, eyes hollow and accusing. Mia, she called out again, but her voice felt weak against the growing storm. Dread seeped into the corners of her mind, and suddenly Lisa found herself shoved into the darkest recesses of her memories, visions of her daughter laughing in the sunlight, of bedtime stories and lullabies. Everything she cherished flickered like a candle before the oncoming storm, and she realized she might not be able to save her. What have you done? She gasped, backing against the door. Behind Mark, a figure began to materialize, emerging from the shadows in all their tortured glory. Mia, she whispered, and the figure grinned. A familiar glee mingled with something sinister. Her heart raced, the air growing thicker with eerie laughter that echoed off the walls. Mommy, the shadow said, and yet it wasn't Mia's voice. This was deeper, more malevolent. No. With a strength born from sheer terror, Lisa lunged, desperate to find Mia amongst the chaos, determined to heal the wounds of their once happy life, to reclaim her daughter. But as she reached for the shadow, her hand passed straight through its dark essence, and a wave of dread washed over her. The laughter stopped suddenly, replaced by a deafening silence that pressed in on her. You can't save her. Lisa turned back to Mark, only to see him vanish, swallowed by the shadows. The house began to tremble, walls vibrating as if they were awakening from a long slumber. Wake up, Lisa, wake up. Suddenly, she was alone, standing at the edge of an abyss filled with whispering shadows and the fading echoes of laughter. In that darkness, she sensed a truth. Mark wasn't just hunting them, he had consumed her past, and now he was ready to trap her forever. In the suffocating silence, her thoughts raced. Would her daughter's spirit fight for her? Could Lisa summon the strength to face this monster? Then, from the darkness, a single voice broke the silence. You're not done yet. With those words still echoing in her mind, Lisa knew the fight was far from over. She had to step into the darkness, to confront the haunting realities that lay ahead. But what awaited her? There, cloaked in shadows, Lisa breathed slowly, trying to calm the racing of her heart. It felt like the walls were closing in around her, suffocating her hope. Each beat echoed with Mia's name, but there was no answer. The silence was heavy, like a thick fog wrapping around her limbs. And then she heard it, a faint whisper, barely discernible. Help me, Mia. Lisa strained, glancing around frantically. The shadows danced, shifting and curling into grotesque shapes, and the air turned colder, biting at her skin. Where are you? You have to find me, the voice rasped. It felt like an echo from the depths of a nightmare. With a shuddering breath, she forced herself to move, to take one shaky step after another. The floor felt alive, pulsating beneath her feet, as if it celebrated her fear. Lisa could almost feel it pulling her back, as if the very darkness conspired to keep her trapped. Get away from her, she shouted, hoping the very act of defiance would summon the strength she desperately needed. Come back to me, Lisa. The taunting voice of Mark slithered through the air, cold and cruel. You can't protect her forever. She belongs with me now. As if summoned, a figure materialized from the shadows, a twisting shape that resembled Mia, but with hollow eyes that glowed with an awful light. Mommy, help me, Lisa screamed, desperation boiling over. No, this isn't my daughter. The figure laughed, a sound that echoed with 1,000 other voices, each laced with sorrow. You'll see, we're all together now. Panic clawed at her throat, and Lisa stumbled back, desperation stealing her breath. The darkened form shifted, merging further into the shadows that writhed like snakes against the wall. The air thickened with their whispers, a cacophony of lost souls that chilled her to the core. Suddenly, the shadows stretched, crawling toward her as if drawn by her fear. The room warped, the dim light flickering as if the very bulbs were afraid. Faces began to appear in the walls, twisted, pain-stricken expressions that seemed to plead for release. Why do you run? They hissed. You can't escape your past. Lisa's hands trembled, and she pressed them against her temples, trying to block out the wailing cries that engulfed her. She remembered moments too painful, too real the last time she saw Mia smile, the way her laughter filled their home, and even the shadows inside her heart that had begun to grow since Mark first cursed their lives. "I want to let you take her," Lisa shouted, her voice breaking through the madness enveloping her. With that, the shadows recoiled, momentarily stunned. It was as if her defiance sparked a flicker of light in the oppressive dark. For a moment, she felt her fear fade, replaced by a rush of purpose. But then came the laughter again, resounding through the darkness. Mark was back, his silhouette forming hungrily, eyes filled with twisted malevolence. Dead and life intertwined. "You don't understand. She's already lost, just like the rest of them. It's time to embrace this family we've formed." "No, you're lying," she cried, despair surging once again. "You can't hold her. I'll find her, I swear it." The shadows recoiled, then surged forward with renewed vigor, a wave of darkness intent on dragging her down. Lisa felt the cold seep into her bones, the screams of lost souls clawing at her sanity. "Wake up, Lisa, wake up," that whispered voice returned. But it wasn't Mark, it wasn't Mia. Something larger and darker lingered in the folds of the shadow. An ancient force, far beyond her understanding. And then she heard it, a different voice, soft and sweet, cutting through the darkness like a beacon. "Mommy Mia?" A glimmer of hope ignited in her heart. Was it possible? Could she still reach her? As if sensing her shift, the shadows thickened, wrapping tighter, pulling her toward the gaping darkness. Her feet felt rooted, but she strained, fighting against the pull. The cold began to sting, but she couldn't give in, not when she was so close. But then came the chilling realization, the golden light flickering just beyond her grasp. What dark price did she have to pay to save her daughter? With the shadows closing in, she took a deep breath. "I will find you, Mia, no matter what it takes." As she plunged into the depths of darkness, Lisa felt the walls tremble around her. She no longer shrank away. She charged forward, determined to dig through the layers of grief and pain. For Mia. But the question loomed, how much of herself would she have to sacrifice to reclaim her daughter from the abyss? The shadows swallowed her whole, pulling Lisa deeper into their embrace. She felt weightless, her body floating through an ocean of darkness. It felt as if she was submerged, the cold biting and wrapping around her like a shroud. Every heartbeat echoed loud in her ears, a frantic warning in the silence. "Mia!" She screamed again, desperation clawing at her throat. The space around her warped and twisted, a dark carnival hall where nightmarish figures deservedly lurked. The words of Mark echoed, drenching her in dread. "You'll never find her. This is where you belong now." Suddenly, a flicker of light pierced the inky blackness. She rushed towards it, driven by a wild hope. The closer she got, the sharper the whispers became, a pulsating chant. "Join us. Come home." The flickering shape knocked her from her feet. Lisa hit the ground hard, pain shooting through her leg. She scrambled to get up, determined not to give in. But then, she saw them, faces emerging from the shadows, twisted and full of sorrow, lips moving in silent pleas. Eyes like voids stared out at her, filled with grief. Some looked familiar, but she couldn't place them. "What do you want from me?" Lisa shouted, her voice trembling. "Release," they all whispered in unison, and she felt their anguish rising, wrapping around her heart. She pressed her hands to her ears, trying to block them out, but cold hands reached for her, desperate and pleading. "Help us," they crooned. Their misery seeped into her, drowning her in despair. "You have the power," Lisa forced herself to think. Their pain was not hers, but it felt a heavy weight, clinging, suffocating. Was this the darkness she had to walk through to find Mia? She wasn't lost, she was just testing her strength. That was it, right? "No," she screamed, her voice shaking the walls around her. "You're not taking me. I'm not like you." But the darkness stung her deeply. Rage bubbled inside her. She felt anger reignite in her chest, a fierce fire against the cold. "I want to bow to you." The shadows recoiled, as if her words burned them. The whispers faltered, and she caught a glimpse of the flickering light ahead. Mia's voice again. "Mommy, please hold on, love. I'm coming." Lisa rushed toward the light, dread and hope battling within her. There it was, a door appearing, the doorknob glowing in the dark a beacon. She reached for it, fingers trembling. As she twisted it open, a scream echoed through the darkness, one of suffering, that now felt intimately connected to her spirit. "Mommy!" The cry echoed from a place deep within the shadows. Lisa burst through into a room filled with bright light. At its center was a figure hovering Mia. But something felt off. Mia's features continued to shift, morphing hauntingly into the faces Lisa had seen in the shadows. "Mia, is that you?" "Mommy, save me." The voice was soft, but hollow, as if it carried a weight of sorrow, a tapestry woven of fear and despair. Shadows stalked at the edges of the light, curling around her fragile form. "What did you do to her?" The air thickened around Lisa as she took a step back. The smell of decay began to seep in, stinging her nostrils. There was something else. She could feel Mark's presence pooling near, an agonizing evil lurking in the periphery, watching, waiting. "You're too late," he whispered, slithering through the air, his voice haunting. "She's part of the darkness now, just like you." Lisa's heart raced. The choice pressed upon her like a weight too heavy to lift. Would she dare sacrifice herself for her daughter, twisting into the shadows just to save what remained of her? The thought made her stomach churn. "Choose." Mark's voice reverberated, threatening and mocking. "Join her, or lose her forever." Trembling, Lisa faced the flickering light and the hollow figure of her daughter. The reality crashed against her like waves, drowning her in horror. What was left to fight for? "Mommy," the figure whimpered, and Lisa felt herself slipping, the darkness creeping forward. There must be a way out. An unknown strength surged through her. "I choose you, Mia. I will fight." Together, the shadows lunged, and the light pulsed. But now, both would unravel. The question loomed ominously: would Lisa and Mia escape the clutches of the dark, or would they be ensnared forever, consumed by the wretched legacy of Mark? Lisa's heart pounded, a relentless drum echoing in the stifling air. The flickering light dimmed, casting eerie shapes across the room that twisted and contorted like frantic souls trapped within the walls. She couldn't afford to look away from Mia, whose face morphed into glimpses of the tortured figures that had sought her in the shadows. They stared back at Lisa, a chorus of silent agony. "Mia," she cried, desperation clawing at her throat. "I'm here. I want to leave you." Mark's laughter chilled the air. "You don't understand, Lisa. She's already lost. So many have tried to save them, and all have failed. Just look at her. She is my weapon now." With those words, the shadows lunged, coiling around Lisa, hooking at her limbs like serpents eager to devour. The darkness wrapped around her throat, squeezing tighter until her breath hitched. "No, let me go." The pull was intoxicating, a siren's call promising pain relief, but she fought against it. Mia's face twisted, contorting into a reflection of torment. "Mommy, please," her daughter's voice echoed, slicing through the mass of shadows that engulfed her. Fighting back tears, Lisa thrashed, feeling the other figures tugging at her like desperate children. "I'm not afraid," she shouted, the words burning in her throat. The shadows recoiled and hissed, their forms shuddering as if her declaration had pierced them. "You think you can challenge us? You have no idea what you're up against," Mark taunted, his voice morphing with the darkness around them. "All will be lost." But Lisa's resolve hardened. The love for her daughter ignited a fire in her core. "I don't care," she shouted, defiance coursing through her veins. "I will fight for her. You will not take us." The room seemed to tremble with her fury, as if the very foundations underneath them were shaking from the power of her words. The shadows shrieked in protest, their faces morphing into grotesque visages of sorrow. Behind them, Lisa could see Mia begin to waver, flickering between the child she knew and the hollow figure of despair. "Join us, Lisa," the shadows coaxed, their pleas brittle and fragmented. "Let go of the pain. We can take away your fears." With each attempt, another piece of darkness tried to latch onto her, overwhelming her senses. She stumbled back, sweat beading along her brow as the decay in the air thickened. Her heart felt like it would burst from her chest. "I will kill for her if I must." The threat hung raw in the air, an echo of rage that amplified through the space. Suddenly, out of the chaos, she saw a spark of movement. Mia, little arms reaching toward her, eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Mommy, don't leave me." Please, help me. And just like that, Lisa felt a shift, something primal awakening within her. She took a step forward, planting her feet firm as the shadows writhed with fury. I will save you, Mia. We'll break these chains together. With that thought consuming her mind, she pulled back, harnessing the power of her love like a shield around her. The shadows recoiled again, faltering against the radiance of her will. Together, she yelled, feeling the electricity spark in the air. Mark's face twisted in outrage. You dare defy me? In that moment, the oppressive darkness began to retreat, inching away like frightened animals. A fissure of light opened before Lisa, brighter than anything she had witnessed in this nightmare. Let us go, Mia, she yelled, thrusting her hand toward her daughter. Mia's small hand shot through the shadows, grasping Lisa's with a fevered urgency. In that instant, everything came crashing down. The borders of reality crumbled. Lisa felt herself being pulled forward, but so did the shadows. No, Mark's voice screeched, laced with pure fury. The ground shook, the brilliant light expanding as it swallowed the darkness. Lisa and Mia leaped forward, hurtling into the unknown. But as they crossed the threshold, disheveled truths within the shadows rushed to the surface. There's no escape. Never. They wailed, their piercing cries chasing after them. Lisa felt a sudden jolt, and everything went blank. As consciousness flickered back, Lisa found herself standing in an empty street. The sun blazed down, too bright, too blinding. She looked around, confusion swallowing her whole. Mia, she screamed, but the echo was the only response. What was this place? Was it a sanctuary or a trap? Her breath raced as she realized, in their escape, they might have slipped into something far worse. Where are you, Mia? She whispered, panic igniting inside her. The silence returned, heavy and suffocating. And somewhere in the distance, she could hear the whispers begin again. You cannot escape. Where had they landed? And what horrors awaited now? Lisa fought to steady her breath, the searing light pressing down on her shoulders like a weight she couldn't shake off. Panic clawed at her throat as she took a step forward, mind racing. Where could Mia be? Was she lost in the shadows again? Was this a cruel illusion or a twisted game? The street felt wrong, although it looked perfectly normal. Rows of identical houses lined the road, their neat lawns bright with flowers in full bloom. Everything seemed serene, yet it felt unnaturally still. The air was oddly thick, as if it held its breath, waiting for something sinister to unfold. Mommy? The soft, trembling voice cut through the silence. Lisa spun around, heart racing. There, standing at the far end of the street, was Mia. Mia, she cried, a mixture of joy and dread coursing through her. But as Lisa rushed towards her, she noticed her daughter's form began to flicker, like a faulty light bulb. Mia, please. She reached out, stretching her hand, but the little girl seemed to shimmer between reality and illusion. Mommy, the voice was barely a whisper, distorted, aching. Tears sprung to Lisa's eyes. Don't let them take me. Just as she took another step, the ground beneath her shook violently. She stumbled, but regained her footing. The tidy houses began to distort, their walls buckle and bend as if they were being swallowed by unseen hands. The flowers wilted, petals dropping like tears. Then, with all her strength, she willed a steady breath. I'm coming, Mia. When she reached the spot where her daughter stood, there was nothing, only a void, a nothingness where Mia should have been. Lisa halted. The laughter returned, echoing through the street, blending with the rising wind. Beautiful, isn't it? A perfect place to lose yourself. A familiar voice seeped into her consciousness. Mark, give me back my daughter, Lisa shouted, her voice filled with raw desperation. Mark materialized from the mist, his face plastered with a twisted grin, and shadows danced around him. She's exactly where she needs to be. This is your punishment, Lisa, a perfect existence without the weight of your failures. Failures? The word crashed around her. My only failure is not saving her. Save her, Mark sneered, stepping closer as the shadows writhed hungrily at his feet. You haven't even saved yourself. A crack formed in her mind as his taunts sunk in. The street began to shatter, the colors bleeding into darkness. The once bright flowers shriveled, and the homes swayed ominously, towering over her like vengeful titans. No, Lisa screamed, forcing herself to focus. I want to play your games. She spun, trying to remain anchored, desperate for a sign of Mia. When she caught sight of movement at the end of the alleyway, a fleeting silhouette that resembled her little girl. With renewed hope, she dashed toward it, each stride urgent. As she ran, the light began to fracture, splintering the air with a sickening crackle. The shadows darkened, the whispers crescendoed, becoming deafening shrieks of torment. Stay away, the chorus screamed, tugging at her conscience. It's not real. But the image of her daughter was too vivid. Mia, she cried, ignoring the tempest of fear that threatened to drown her. She vaulted over debris, crashing through illusions, hell-bent on reaching that flicker of hope, that essence of her daughter. Mommy, it cried again, raw and pleading. Then, as she turned into the alley, the world transformed. Lisa found herself standing in front of a towering door, its surface covered with symbols that pulsed ominously. She touched it, dread seeping into her bones. This felt like the heart of it all, the source of the torment, a labyrinth hiding secrets she wasn't ready to face. Could it lead her to Mia, or would it trap them forever? As she hesitated, the shadows behind her hissed their warning, a wicked symphony that drowned out her courage. The door trembled under her trembling touch, and without hesitation, she pushed it open. Darkness spilled out, eager to embrace her. Mia, she called out again, the echoes of her voice swallowed by the void. What awaited her inside? Did she dare to enter the unknown, or would she remain lost forever in the echoes of despair? The door groaned as it swung wide, revealing a black abyss that seemed to devour all sound. Lisa hovered on the threshold, heart hammering in her chest, the cacophony of anguish and despair vibrating like a live wire at her fingertips. The shadows whispered, brushing past her skin with icy tendrils, beckoning her to step inside. Mia, she cried, trying to sound brave, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her fear. The darkness pulsated, swellings of black fog curling around her feet like hungry vines. With a deep breath, she plunged into the void. Instantly, the door slammed shut behind her with a resounding thud that echoed like a death knell in the silence. She was swallowed whole, and the humid air thickened around her, suffocating and electric. Straining her eyes, she saw nothing but an endless expanse of ink. Each breath felt labored, as if the darkness were conspiring to keep her rooted in place. Mommy, the sweet, desperate voice shattered the stillness, clear as a bell, guiding her deeper. It felt like a beacon urging her to fight against the overwhelming despair. Mia, I'm coming, Lisa shouted, trying to hold on to that flicker of hope amid the despair. But as she moved forward, she realized that every step echoed with a sense of foreboding. The shadows roiled and rustled, pooling and swirling around her, drawing closer as she pressed onward. Then she noticed them. Shapes began to emerge from the abyss, not the soft glow of hope, but twisted forms that flickered and writhed like shadowy flames. Faces appeared, distorted and ghostly, showcasing frozen expressions of anguish, each one a reflection of a fear she had buried deep. They were remnants of her past. Doubts personified everyone she had ever failed. Leave me alone, she screamed, swatting at the illusions, but they only laughed in response, a bone-chilling cacophony that deepened the darkness around her. Mia, she shouted again, pushing through the phantoms, the mocking laughter morphing into something more sinister. They reached out, grasping at her, fingers cold and grasping. The shadows tugged at her clothes, whispering promises of despair and loss. Come and join us, stay with us, but Lisa's resolve hardened. She would not succumb. Desperation coursed through her veins like fire. I want to let them win, she screamed, rallying her fear into a weapon. She tore through the darkness, trying to remember every single moment with Mia, every laugh, every hug. Finally, a dim light flickered ahead, ambiguous yet pulsating. She sprinted toward it, but then the ground erupted beneath her feet, collapsing into a swirling void. Lisa fell, grasping at the edges, claws scraping against jagged darkness. The entities around her cackled, pulling her deeper into shadows that sought to engulf her. Mia, she called, her voice raw now, each utterance punctuated by the sharp edges of her despair. And then she felt a tug at her heart, a warm presence drawing her from the abyss. Mommy, help! Elated, she clawed forward, hand outstretched toward the bright, glow flickering violently. The shadows twisted into a storm around her, screeching, furious at her defiance, but she refused to look back. She felt warmth beginning to burn through her rising panic as she plunged into the light, fingers grazing the surface. With one final push, she broke through, tumbling into a disorienting whirl of light and color. Dazed and breathless, she found herself standing alone in a vast, barren landscape. The air was still, devoid of sound, and the horizon stretched impossibly far. Then she saw a crumbling pedestal with a small, delicate doll perched on top. Its eyes sparkled like Mia's. The moment Lisa locked eyes with it, a horrid realization filled her chest like ice. This is a trap, she breathed, panic swelling in her throat. She turned, heart racing, but felt the shadows closing in from all around, clawing at her sanity. Mia? She whispered, terror flooding her senses, as the twisted laughter returned, echoing her name. What if it wasn't just the darkness that wanted her? What if she had entered a world where the silent hunger for despair lurked at every corner? And what if Mia was no longer just lost but trapped in a venomous weave of wicked illusions? As the shadows writhed closer, Lisa knew she had only begun to scratch the surface of this nightmare. Every step forward could lead her deeper into the abyss, or maybe, just maybe, bring her closer to her daughter. But would she survive the nightmarish chase? With darkness pressing in tight, she had to decide, fight or flight. Time was running out, and the laughter grew louder. The shadows crept closer, coiling around her like serpents, intent on dragging her back into the depths of her own fears. Heart pounding, Lisa turned her back to the pedestal, but the flickering light of the doll burned in her mind. It was so like Mia, so familiar yet twisted, a reminder of childhood innocence caught in a snare of evil. Just breathe, she muttered, half convinced herself. In the eerie stillness of the barren landscape, her own voice felt foreign. It echoed back to her, mocking. Breathing heavily, she focused on that warmth tugging at her heart. I'm coming, Mia. Hold on. Determined, she clenched her fists and started moving forward, her feet churning against the desolate ground. Every step felt heavy, each movement marked by the watchful shadows that slinked behind her. They howled, a chorus of despair chasing her. But Lisa couldn't stop. She wouldn't let them see her falter. Suddenly, a sharp laughter pierced the silence, sending chills coursing down her spine. You really think you can save her? A voice echoed, smooth and taunting. It was distorted, as if coming from 1,000 mouths at once, normal and insidious at the same time. Leave me alone, she screamed, spinning around to find the source, but the haze only thickened, wrapping her tighter in its suffocating clutches. Poor mommy, it whispered. You're too late. She's already ours. The shadows seemed to ripple at the sound of their words, summoned by a dark joy that made Lisa's stomach twist. She shook her head, refusing to believe them. The warmth was still there, pulsating like a lighthouse in a storm, and she couldn't wait, she had to keep moving. As she pushed onward, the landscape shifted, morphing into a labyrinth of thorny vines and spectral figures. Each face that appeared mirrored Lisa's anguish, old friends, colleagues, family, each with a hollow expression of betrayal and sorrow. This isn't real, she whispered, squeezing her eyes shut, trying to rid her mind of those haunting faces. Get away. But her thoughts betrayed her, spinning a web of guilt and remorse that tightened around her throat. Each feeling of shame was like a barb, slicing at her resolve. Mia, she cried out again, desperation clawing at her throat. I'm here for you. And then, breaking through the haze, she caught a glimpse of something tiny, feet racing through the dark maze. It was motion, an unmistakable sign of life. Hope ignited within her, pushing against the smothering darkness. Mia, wait. Lisa lunged towards the figure, the shadows swirling violently around her. But the closer she got, the more the vision flickered, wavering like a mirage. The laughter echoed again, closer this time, as the shadows breathed against her skin like cold smoke. Mia, please, she begged, feeling her legs threaten to buckle beneath her as the visions of despair spread wider. In that moment of sheer terror, she saw the doll re-emerging in her mind's eye, its glassy eyes gleaming with a promise and a warning. It was a decision point. Did she chase the illusion, or did she fight her way through the claws of despair? With shadows pulling her back, Lisa took a deep breath and screamed, "I choose love. I choose light." The darkness howled in rage, and in that cacophony, she felt something shift within her. An energy surged, igniting a path through the darkness. But would it be enough to see her through? Would it lead her back to Mia, or deeper into this trap? An unholy roar erupted, reverberating through the air, a raw sound of hungry despair, and she could feel the chase accelerate. The shadows writhed as they lunged for her, but Lisa charged to fend them off, every fiber of her being committed to breaking free. Then she spotted it again, a faint glow, pulsating with life, further ahead. "Mia," she shouted, throwing caution to the wind. Was it a chance? Or an illusion meant to ensnare her? The laughter erupted again, deafening and relentless, as the darkness threatened to engulf her whole. What awaited her in that radiant light? The promise of reunion or the peril of complete annihilation? Lisa sprinted toward the distant glow, her heart racing as the shadows writhed hungrily around her. She could feel their icy fingers grasping at her, some mocking her feeble attempts to escape, others filled with a grating sorrow. "You can't outrun what you've become," they whispered, taunting her with the memories of pain. But with every step, the dim light transformed, taking on a warmer hue, radiating love and hope. It reminded her of Mia, of everything her daughter brought into her life: the laughter, the cuddles on stormy nights, the innocent curiosity that shone like the brightest star in a dark sky. "I won't let you take her," Lisa screamed, pushing her will against the despair that wrapped itself around her so tightly she could barely breathe. As she reached the light, it expanded, pulling her in like a warm embrace. And there stood Mia, bathed in an ethereal glow, a beacon amidst the chaos. Her little body trembled, eyes wide and scared, yet filled with unmistakable recognition. "Mommy," she cried, reaching out as if she could escape the confines of the darkness. "Hold on to me," Lisa yelled, diving into the radiance. The moment their fingers clasped, a surge of warmth enveloped them both, a connection stronger than the shadows that sought to pull them apart. Time seemed to freeze as they locked eyes, love flooding in where fear had dwelled. "I'm here," she whispered, fighting back tears. "I'll always find you." But Mark's voice erupted, venomous and powerful, distorting the very fabric around them. "You think this is love? You don't know what it means to embrace true darkness." Lisa clenched her jaw, her determination flaring into a raging fire. "You don't own either of us anymore." The shadows responded to her defiance, recoiling as if burned, hissing with rage and retreating momentarily. The light shimmered, offering a path through the heavy darkness. "Mia, we have to go?" she cried, holding her daughter's hand tightly as they dashed toward freedom. As they ran, the shadows slashed at them with anguished voices, weaving tales of despair. "You can't escape. You belong to us." But with each step, Lisa's love for her daughter created barriers against the encroaching darkness. She could feel her feet pounding against the ground, the rhythmic pulse of power growing stronger as they approached their salvation. "I won't let you down again," she yelled, channeling every ounce of her strength into the declaration. And then they broke through, bursting into a vibrant world that felt alive with color again. The sun bathed them, illuminating everything in its warm embrace, as the shadows shrank back, howling in horror. They were in their front yard of the Maplewood house, the flowers blooming brighter than ever, the air sweetened with the scent of freedom. "Mama," Mia laughed, joy radiating in her voice, breaking through the intensity of moments ago. Lisa knelt down, wrapping her arms around her daughter, tears streaming down her face. She held on to her treasure fiercely, absorbing the warmth and relief flooding through her heart. "Mia, I thought I'd lost you," Lisa gasped, gasping for breath. "You found me, Mommy." The little girl giggled, and the sound sent ripples of love through Lisa's soul, a reminder of why she fought so desperately. But as they basked in this moment of reunion, Lisa could still feel the remnants of the shadows lurking, angry but distant, a reminder of the darkness that could return. She turned, facing the woods where Mark's sinister laugh echoed hauntingly. "You can't take them from me, Mark. I chose love. I chose Mia." But silence fell, leaving an eerie emptiness behind. "Can we go back inside?" Mia asked, her small voice pulling Lisa back into the present moment. She stared down at her daughter with a fierce determination. A mixture of love and fear simmered within her. The past had marked them, but it wouldn't define who they would become. Absolutely, kiddo. They stepped inside the house, a place that was once filled with shadows, but now felt bright and new. It was time to embrace their future, build on their love, and forge a life free from the grip of despair. As she set the table for dinner, Lisa reminisced about the games they would play, the stories they would read, and the laughter that would fill their home. She could feel the presence of the light guiding them, wrapping them in warmth and assurance they had before life was theirs to reclaim. But lurking in the corners of her mind was the echo of Mark, a reminder of everywhere they had come from, every battle fought, every scar earned. She would be vigilant, protect what she loved fiercely, even if it meant facing darkness again. "Mama?" Mia called, pulling her from her thoughts. "Will Daddy come back?" Lisa paused, fingers twisting on the counter. "No, sweetie. Daddy is just a shadow now." And with that simple truth, Lisa finished setting the table, her heart full of hope. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, she couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows were still watching, waiting, ready to remind her that where there is love, there is also loss, a darkness always looming, fighting against light. Yet together, they would keep moving forward, love burning brightly, illuminating the path ahead. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss a single beat of the next exclusive stories. Hit that bell to be notified immediately. Also, smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I want to hear what you think. And if you care about your friends, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters, true fans. This is the moment to show your love.